Then we go to Tom Baker. We have Robot, his first story, and that sticker seems to have been damaged. Never mind. It does have all the crew from Jon Pertwee, so you've got a reasonably good story here. I definitely recommend that one. The Ark in Space, nice story. I wouldn't say it's as good as everyone claims it to be. I find the Ruin to be a bit of a weird design for villains, to be honest. But it's still a good story. Sontaran Experiment, 2 parts long, but still great. Has a documentary on there about the Sontarans, so I recommend you check that out. Genesis of the Daleks, obviously considered the #1 Doctor Who story in 2006, and I can see why. It's a very, very good story. I wouldn't put it in my top 10 personally, but it's still a great watch. Like, everything about it, even the special features are absolutely wonderful about it. The Planet of Evil. Bit of a weird story, but I still think it's reasonable to watch. You obviously had lots of stories to watch with Tom Baker. Most of them are still hold up pretty well. Pyramids of Mars, a great story. Obviously the most anticipated for the 40th anniversary release, and I can see why. It's very, very good. I like Sutekh in this. It might be interesting if we could see like a kind of him or a similar character come back. Brain of Morbius, obviously with the Sisters of Khan in this, and they didn't return until a lot later in the series. Frankenstein Style, it's an alright story. Wouldn't say Tom Baker's finest, but still proved to be decent. Seeds of Doom, this is a great one for Tom Baker. I definitely think it's a nice thing. Obviously you have the Axorn painted green, but you can't really go wrong with it too much. Attack of the Killer Plants. The Mask of Mandragora. This one was interesting. I'm not going to say that most of them are interesting anyway, but I do like this one. It's another one of good stories. Hand of Fear, Sarah Jane's final story. She could have easily left on a higher note. This is definitely a bland story. I don't really recommend that one too much, but yeah. Moving down a shelf. The Deadly Assassin. The only story in Doctor Who history not to have a companion in it. With the Doctor, and I'm not including the Heaven Sent episode from Peter Capaldi's season 9, because Clara did appear in it briefly as a like a, I don't know what it's called, but just a person helping out. Another brilliant story. One of my first ones I think I remember seeing. Robots of Death. I'm going to get a new cover for this. Fine story. Again, not as good as everyone claims it to be, but still a reasonable one to watch for this series. Talons of Weng-Chiang. The one that everyone loves, but I absolutely hate. I don't know what it is about it, but I just find it to be ridiculous and boring, and it just doesn't fit in well with the whole theme of Doctor Who as it is. It's not my least favourite, but it's definitely one which I do not recommend. And we have the K9 Tales box here, with 2 of the K9 episodes from the original series. This obviously isn't one of them. Horror of Fang Rock. The only time to feature Rutan in the original series. I wish they would have been included more. Kind of spooky. It's fine enough. Yeah, The Invisible Enemy, as signed by Bob Baker. Weird story, not the best. K9 didn't really have much of a chance to shine in the original episodes, so it's kind of a shame, but it's still a reasonable one. Image of the Fendahl, one of my favourite Tom Baker stories. Very good, I like the whole kind of occult feel with it. Then we have Underworld. Everyone hates this one, I can see why, but then again, you have to grant the fact that it was on a budget at the time, so I can kind of look past it because in that regard. But it's still not one which I would recommend. It's still relatively sort of weak. Invasion of Time. A fine story. The one thing I didn't like about it is the fact that, spoilers with this, by the way, the Sontarans don't appear till episode 4. So you obviously expect them to come out and then just nothing else happens. It's just kind of unfortunate, I think, in that aspect. Last night to feature Leela in that one. Then we have the Key to Time box set. I mentioned in my original video, obviously this is a re-release because the original one opened it up differently and only had 10,000 copies available, so it was rarer to find. But they re-released it with the same image and everything, and the DVDs are all identical. This just makes it easier, and again, this is hard cardboard, which I prefer. So we have part 1, The Rivals Operation, featuring Romana for the first time as Mary Tamm. Good story. These definitely weren't the strongest ones for Tom Baker, but I still think they're reasonably okay. Pirate Planet, another fine story. I don't understand why some of these covers have the darker shades of grey compared to the other ones. It doesn't really make too much sense to me personally. but that's just being nitpicky. Stones of Blood. Most people don't like this one, but I find some things to be kind of just so bad that they're funny. So I'm fine to watch it in that regard. The Androids of Tara, my least favourite of the box set, and just not one of my favourite stories in general. It's just very weak in that aspect. Power of Kroll, my favourite of this box set, and a fine Tom Baker story. If I'm not mistaken, I think Kroll is the biggest Doctor Who monster in history, if not for the original series at least. The Albigen Factor, you have Lalla Ward in this, and last time featured Mary Tam in the original series, may she rest in peace. So yeah, it's a reasonable box set to get. Destiny of the Daleks, obviously Lalla Ward as Romana this time. Again, most people don't like this episode, but again, I can look past it just because of the BBC were on a budget, and they obviously were going to deal with the strikes later that year, because it was released in 1979. Obviously, the one thing that everyone hates about this, which I could agree with, is the execution scene. It looked very, very poorly executed. No pun intended with that. Sorry. Then we have City of Death, a much bigger improvement. There is one like in the first episode where you see Scarth. I think that's his name. I can't remember. You can see the bit where you can see the slit for his nose sticking out, but obviously he needs to breathe. But it just feels that they could have executed that a little bit better. But it doesn't affect the story in any way, and I would recommend it. Creature from the Pit, fairly okay story. I mentioned about that scene which I like, where everyone's trying to get through this wall, but then Tom Baker just rams through it, and he just gets through without any problems. But still, it doesn't really add up to the story. It's not really that good. Haunted Nimon, meh. That's all there is to say about it. Then we come to the Leisure Hive. This is when John Nathan Turner took over. Again, just a meh story. Not much to say about it. Then we have Meglos, obviously the one where Tom Baker becomes a cactus. I don't mind it. It obviously features Jacqueline Hill as like the priestess in this, which I do not mind in the slightest. Then we have the E-Space trilogy. That's going to make it better. Yeah, so that's that box set. So Full Circle. Again, kind of another guilty pleasure. Most of the stories which are my favourites aren't really liked by other people, but I like this one for some reason. I can't put my finger on it, but I just like it. I do. I really do. State Decay. Absolute crap. Do not recommend that one at all. Warriors Gate. Better than State Decay, but still very, very boring. There's nothing going on with it. Full Circle was the first time to feature Adric. Warriors Gate was the last time to feature K9 Mark II and Romana in the original series. Next up we have New Beginnings. This is obviously where the Master comes back. Keeper of Traken. These are all good stories. They're not great, but they're still reasonable to watch. That's the first time to feature Nyssa. And then we have Logopolis, Tom Baker's final one. Anthony Ainley as the Master properly for the first time, and the first time to feature Tegan. It would have been nice if maybe she would have known Tom Baker's Doctor a little bit better. But, yeah, for some reason that's not wanted to go in. I'll see to that in a sec. I'll explain it. Hey, I'll get that out. Castrovalva. I like this one. Obviously Peter Davison's first, I do like it. There we go. Next up we have Fall to Doomsday. Weak story, not much to say about it. The Visitation. I like that one a lot. It's definitely a good Tom Baker story to watch. Peter Davis. I'm not really focusing about this, sorry. There we go. Visitation. Good story. Recommend it. Leave it at that. Black Orchid. Underrated. People should like it more. It's only 2 episodes long. You can't really miss too much with it. I forgot. This isn't going well for me. It's not easy doing this one-handed. I can assure you that. Earthshock. Brilliant. One of my personal favourites, and it's a good one in general. Obviously, the famous scene with the death of Adric. I recommend that one a lot. That one has an O-ring cover, as does Genesis and The Hand of Fear. Like I said, I want to try and get this covered, but I do recommend you try and get that one. It's great. Then we have the Tegan Tales box set, just nicknamed Time Flight and Arc of Infinity. So there's the two stories that come with it. Time Flight, one of my least favourite stories ever. I absolutely hate it with a complete passion. And then the Arc of Infinity. This one's a lot better than Time Flight, but still not a good one in general. It's not really that good. Return of Omega, but it could have had a better design, to be honest. Next up we have the Black Guardian trilogy. 3 Black Guardian stories after he returns from the Key to Time series. Yeah, Mordred Undead, the best one of the set. Another good Peter Davison story in general. I do like him. I do like this one. Obviously the Brigadier in 2 ages in this. I do like it a fair bit. And that one features Turlo for the first time. Terminus, relatively okay. Last line to feature Nissa. And then Enlightenment, last line to feature Black Guardian. Kind of bland. I haven't seen the special edition one yet. King's Demons, 2 episodes long, but still decent to watch. I like it. This came with Chameleon Tales. I really wish the Chameleon was actually featured more in the original series. Just 2 episodes, not really good for him. Next up, we have the 5 Doctors. I have both versions of this. I have the original one with the O-ring cover, and then I believe that's just taken more or less straight from the original video. This is the edited one, which was released in America, and this is obviously the first ever Doctor Who DVD to be released. I really don't want this to be damaged getting back in there. Sod it. And then we have the Anniversary Edition. I don't have the cover for this yet, but I'm trying to find it. You get both versions of this of the 5 Doctors in here, which is the one I'm going to recommend this one a lot more. Because that one you don't get anything, it's just the edited version and that's it. But with this one you get everything, along with a ton of special features. I do think it's a good one to have, and you get the hidden Easter egg as well. There we go. And then we have the Warriors of the Deep, Return of Silurians and Sea Devils. They really didn't do well with that, and Mara was just a joke in this episode. And we skip a few. We go. We'll skip 2 actually. We have the Resurrection of the Daleks. This is a special edition version. It's the same DVD again, which is released for the 40th anniversary. This is a rubber casing actually, so it's kind of interesting to have. I expected it to be cardboard. Good story. Has the most number of deaths in a Doctor Who story ever. I counted it as 67. There's a web performance said it was only 53. Maybe I need to watch it again to kind of double check everything. Then we have the box here, which is Chameleon Tales, which only has the 2 Chameleon stories in it. With this one being the second one, The Planet of Fire. First line to feature Perry. Forgot to mention, Resurrection of the Daleks was the last line to feature Tegan. So Perry appears in this episode for the first time. Return of the Master. Reasonable episode. I'd definitely say it's a good one. And then, obviously, everyone go bonker for this episode, The Caves of Androzani. But I feel as though it's overrated. Again, it's a reasonable episode, but for it to be number 1, I just can't see it. But yeah, it's still a good story. I'll suggest getting that one. And then we move on from the best Doctor Who story ever to the worst one, the Twin Dilemma. I can definitely see why people hate this story, but I personally see one which are a lot worse. So I can pass this one, but it's still not anything to write home about. Attack of the Cybermen. I like this one. This is when they changed the format with the episodes, so there'll be 45 minutes rather than 25, like the new series now.